Hello, and welcome to The Pool is Abstract, where we are currently rewatching and dissecting the revived series of Doctor Who episode by episode. My name is Connor, and with me is my big head in a jar. It's Charlotte.
It is Charlotte, yeah.
How you doing?
Okay.
How's your day?
I'm alright.
You're back?
I am.
You're back on the pod?
I am back for series 2, baby.
Where's this attitude come from all of a sudden? You're like, yeah, I'm back, baby.
Sleep deprived.
If anybody missed the last episode, we covered the Christmas invasion, but Charlotte was absent, so our friend Rob joined us on for that one. So if you missed it, go ahead, check it out.
Please watch it or listen to it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I listened to it today in work.
It's good. I'm glad to hear it wasn't a complete train wreck.
I know. I listened to the full
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours, and I had quite a few chuckles.
Good,
especially because I know what the two of you are like. So
yeah,
I know how your brains work.
Yeah, but if anybody did listen to that one, let us know what you thought. I guess just because we were a bit unsure how that would be, like a different dynamic, because obviously people got used to us talking for. However many, 11 episodes, 12 episodes, something like that. And then obviously throwing someone new in the mix is a bit strange. But yeah, let us know what you thought. But Charlotte, you're back for Series 2. Mm-hmm. So we watched obviously Series 2, Episode 1, New Earth. It aired on April 15th, 2006 this time. Written by Russell T. Davies. I don't have any notes in terms of like preamble. Do you?
Not particular, but I would just like to bring up, which I said to Connor before we started recording, I have very few notes, and I don't know whether you are the same. Usually I have quite a few notes, but I only have
I don't often,
a page full, not even that, really.
I don't often make most of my notes are normally just recapping the story, and my things that you would think would be notes tend to just be things that pop into my head as I'm talking.
Yeah, I usually put like big points. When I make my notes, I put like big events that happen in the story. Which
is ironic, because that's like the one thing you don't need to do. Because I normally have the episode recap written down. Yeah,
but sometimes it will remind me, like, if somebody does something a bit strange.
Right.
I'm like, well, noted.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you don't have anything to say before we get in?
No, nothing to say.
Just in general then, just because I know we normally talk about it a bit at the end as well, but without going into too much detail, do you like this episode?
So, this I want to go into detail more about this at the end.
Okay.
However, I think this is a completely and utterly mid-episode.
That's fair enough, and I kind of agree.
I think it's fine. There's nothing...
It's a bit of Doctor Who flim-flam.
There's nothing wrong with it. However, it's quite forgettable.
I feel like that's normally the case for every series opener.
Yeah.
Even the series I love, the only series opener I can think of that's like really, really good. 11th Hour. I quite like Smith and Jones.
No.
You just hate Martha.
I don't hate Martha. I hate Martha's story.
That genuinely might be it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like Deep Breath more than I say most people probably do, but it's not an episode I look back on and go, oh, I really like Deep Breath. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I like it, but it's whatever. I'd say Smith and Jones and the 11th Hour are the only ones where I'm like, oh, those are really good episodes.
I really like Magician's Apprentice and
God,
Witch's Familiar.
Don't let Rob hear you say that.
I don't care. I don't care what people think.
Rob's going to listen to this and he's going to remember Davros and that whole thing, and he's going to get very upset with you.
I don't care.
You know what? We should get an episode with you two.
Capaldi's in the shell of a Dalek.
I don't think he likes that.
Sipping a cup of tea. Nothing's
Anyone
greater.
up for dodgem.
That's one of the best lines in Doctor Who ever. Yeah. I will fight you.
We should get you two on an episode and I'll set that one out. Just let you two argue with each other for like 2 hours.
It really would be as well, because I think me and you have quite different opinions, but I think me and Rob have very different opinions. So that really would be a laugh, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. But should we just get straight into the meat and potatoes?
Sure.
Yeah. But I just kind of going back to what you said, I do agree. I think this is kind of just a bit of normal Doctor Who flim-flam, which I think is kind of normal for a series opener. There's never like an experimental episode to be the series opener. Do you know what I mean? It's normally something that's kind of like I just said, like meat and potatoes Doctor Who, something that when you think of the show, it's normally an episode like this. Yeah.
I guess one of those things that if you asked me to name all of the episode in this series, this episode probably would be likely one I would forget or would think of last.
I understand why. I think the only reason I am not like that is because the way my brain works, I think of the episodes in order.
Yeah, I don't. So
this is notable for me because it's the first episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean. If you don't think that way and you're just trying to think of memorable episodes that come to your mind, I wouldn't be surprised if you forgot this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the episode begins. Our new 10th Doctor is powering up the TARDIS. He's flicking all the switches, and he looks very pleased with himself. During this, Rose is on the power stage. She's saying goodbye to Jackie and Mickey. She's like packed a bunch of clothes,
and she looks like a proper traveller, doesn't she?
Yeah, no.
She looks like
a backpacker.
She looks like she's about to backpack across Europe for like 6 months to find herself.
Yeah,
she's got like a floppy hat on and a huge backpack.
It's funny because she says she's going to do that. Is it Aliens of London?
Yeah.
Because she says, like, oh, last time we disappeared on a whim. This time, like, oh, now you're stuck with me. This time I'm prepared or whatever. But it's like, she's got way more clothes now.
Yeah. No one will ever beat, though, Donna and her multiple suitcases.
Although she keeps in her car.
She is prepared.
She is so prepared. Rose has a haircut.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
I like this hair on her. It suits her.
I don't. Oh. I don't think it doesn't suit her, but I prefer her Series 1 hair.
I think I like it because it makes her seem more mature.
Yeah,
which usually a bob does.
It does. Maybe it's not actually the hairstyle I dislike. Maybe it's because this hairstyle reminds me of the version of Rose I don't like.
Aww.
Which we're going to get a lot of in Series 2, and we get a bit of it here. Mostly towards the start because Rose isn't actually in this episode much as herself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I said to you while we were watching it that technically she had this haircut during the Christmas invasion.
Yeah,
but obviously because it takes place like seconds after Parting of the Ways, she was wearing like extensions to match the continuity. So yeah, there's that. So once they get in the TARDIS and they start flying away, Rose asks the Doctor where they're going next, and he says the trailer line, further than we've ever gone before. And I think that's it. Is that the cold open?
Yeah, I think
that's it. I think we just get titles then. Yeah, the only thing kind of like noteworthy about this one is that this is the only series opener during Russell's first era to actually have a cold open.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I don't know. I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff, really. So
yeah, it's one of those like nothing facts. Like it's not really important. No one's going to go, wow, I didn't know that. That's just kind of just...
Is there any particular reason why?
I don't know. I think it's fair enough for Rose to not have one.
Yeah, because you want
just
to get
straight into the tiles. Yeah. As for the other 2 episodes after this, no idea. Don't know. Maybe they experimented with this one. They liked it better the other way. I don't know.
Fair enough.
But yeah. So obviously we get David Tennant in the titles. We're still stuck with that Grow Silver logo. But yeah.
It really irks you, that. I don't know why.
Because it's not right. It's not even as if like that's the logo they had in the beginning and then they changed it halfway through. Because when you watch the closing credits, they have the right logo. So why this is there, I don't know. It looks unfinished.
Maybe it I don't know. Does it suit it better with?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
no, I guess it's subjective, but yeah, I don't like it. So after the titles, the TARDIS materializes on New Earth in the year 5,000,023. So when the Doctor said we're going further than we've ever gone before, he means literally 23 years.
Which isn't very long at all.
No.
You'd think he'd go something a bit more extravagant. Saying that though, he was pulled here, wasn't he? The psychic paper.
I don't know if it's established whether or not he comes here because of that or whether that happens after he arrives.
Either way.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Strange. Again, the psychic paper is very weird because how it works kind of changes all the time.
Maybe the TARDIS decided when. Maybe he didn't put a date in. Maybe the TARDIS was like, well...
We did say if you went further than we've ever gone before, and then the TARDIS just sent him back to like 1950 or something. It's a bit underwhelming.
Yeah, maybe the TARDIS was like, but not too far.
Yeah. So at this point, they're kind of having like a date almost. 'Cause they get out the TARDIS and he takes his coat off and he puts it down. They're lying on it like it's a blanket. And it's like they're having a picnic, but without the picnic. They're kind of like lying on the coat and they're watching a CGI abomination of flying cars fly past. And they're looking at like the city, and this like they're standing on like a grassy hill. And the Doctor's just kind of explaining what New Earth is. He says, after the destruction of Earth, which obviously we saw during the end of the world.
And she references it as
our first day.
Our first date, which yuck.
Yeah, he goes, we had chips. This is what I mean. Already, we're like, what? 30 seconds after the opening titles, and I already hate their relationship.
She literally goes, I just want to say I love travelling with you. It's like, yikes.
Yeah, I know. This is what I mean. Back during Series 1, when I said, I love 9 and Rose's dynamic, 10 and Rose's dynamic can get in the bin. This is what I'm talking about.
I would like to mention something that happened before the, before the cold opener. I missed it in my notes. The fact that Mickey says, love you, and Rose says, bye.
I mean, one, that's hilarious, but do you know what's more funny than that is the fact that you made a point at the beginning of this is saying, I only have like a page of notes and you've already missed one.
I know.
The first one, I assume.
Yes, the first one. Because the second one is first date.
So is it? He says, I love you, and she says,
bye. She's like running into the TARDIS and he's like, love you.
She's an awful
she's like,
person.
Bye.
She's such a bad person.
She is. It's so mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then she's flouncing around with her new man and she's like, oh, our first date. Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Oh, look, the man who I already said was better than you. Oh, he's fit now.
And then she says, you're so different. And then she's
new doctor.
Yeah, and she's got a big smirk. She's like,
Yeah, I know. So yeah, the Doctor says, after the destruction of Earth, humanity got nostalgic and settled on a new planet with a similar mavity and atmosphere.
Boo.
I literally wrote that down in my notes.
Boo, your mavity.
They're in Galaxy M87. Do you remember that?
No.
This is technically, if I'm right, this is the first alien planet that we see in the revived series. Because we made a point, didn't we? I can't remember whether it was Partner of the Ways or whether it was our series roundup, but we talked about how every story in Series 1 is either on Earth or in a space station.
Yeah.
So this is, technically our first alien planet in the revival.
And you can see that CG budget has been increased.
You say that, it does look bad.
It does, because
those flying cars going past you.
Well, no, I was thinking that it goes grass,
Green
CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of grass, the Doctor says they're standing on apple grass.
Which sounds lovely.
It does. I kind of want to try apple grass.
Try.
Yeah, I want to taste it.
What?
I want to taste apple grass.
Why are you wanting to eat the grass?
I assume it tastes like apples.
Well, maybe it just smells like apples.
Either way, I mean, you think of those ear up bowls. If it smells like apples, it probably tastes like apples.
That's not the case.
That's how science works, baby.
Sure.
Science fiction.
Yeah. I'd love to roll around in some apple grass.
Put that in the trailer. Apple grass, and they're looking at the futuristic city of New York. So good they named it twice. He says technically it's the 15th New York since the original, so that makes it New York.
And she's like,
yeah. That's
impressed.
when she says, "You're so different." And he goes, "New Doctor."
So stupid.
You don't like it?
I mean, it fits, but it's stupid.
All right, here's the thing. I think it does a good job of setting up that the 10th Doctor is immediately more personable than the 9th. He's more
flirtatious.
9 was
cheeky.
A bit of a flirt, but 10 is like, I don't know, he's more likely to make small talk. He cares. I don't know if cares the right word. You get the impression with the 9th Doctor that he didn't necessarily care what people thought of him. He just was himself. Where the 10th Doctor, I don't want to say he cares what people think about him, but he does make more of an effort to be sociable.
I find that maybe you'll agree, but the 9th Doctor wasn't confident in himself. He wasn't confident enough to be able to like communicate with people and not believe he sounds strange or stupid or upset people, whereas 10 is like very confident in his social skills, and therefore he doesn't hold back.
I think in some ways the Ninth Doctor is confident. Do you know what I mean? There's this, like, the moments where he says, like, if you're as clever as I am, you can do this, and he says, like, I was fantastic and all that stuff. But I know what you mean. The 10th Doctor is more sure of himself and more socially confident.
Yeah, whereas the other ones
the 9th Doctor's confident in his abilities, but
Yeah.
the 10th Doctor is just a smooth talker, isn't he?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and I do want to preface this by saying, when I complain about the Doctor and Rose's relationship, as in the 10th Doctor, there are nice moments in there. I don't, like, hate every moment they're on screen together. It's just bits like this where they're being really cutesy. I wouldn't even mind it if it was isolated to this episode. But they are kind of insufferable together when they be in this way, especially when you see how badly she treats Mickey.
Oh,
and it just makes me think, man, I agree with you. Do you know what I mean? We should have seen Mickey's villain origin story.
Do you know what?
He should have got his own back.
Do you know what I would have liked? What would have been real cool if Mickey had got his own back and the Doc was like, well, I've seen how you treat your partners, and the two of them went off in a bromance together.
Funnily enough, you know The Lodger,
Yeah.
the Matt Smith episode with James Corden, that is actually a rough adaptation of a comic story with the 10th Doctor and Mickey. So there's a comic called The Lodger, and it's basically the Doctor is stranded on Earth for a bit, and he's living with Mickey, and that's the premise for the story.
I would have loved that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, him and Mickey just, like, going out for the day?
I should try and buy the whichever kind of comic anthology that story's in, because I've been curious to check that one out. But
I wish we had that. That would have been brilliant.
Yeah, I wish that was a TV story.
Yeah.
So they're flirting
Yes.
on the fields, and they're being watched by a metal spider, which is pretty much identical to the ones from End of the World. Little spindly boys, and we see that they're being monitored by a character we come to know as Chip. Chip is a man who looks like a human, but he's got
like scrawlings over his face, like patterns. And...
look, I'm a walking doodle.
Yeah.
He's got like markings on his face.
Do we ever find out what they are or why they're there?
Not really. I mean, it's. I assume it's just a side effect of him being. I mean, later on we find out he's like a clone.
It's like a half-life.
He's called a half-life. So I assume that's just kind of like a visual signifier of that.
Either that or maybe the clone he is the person of just had face tattoos. Yeah.
Yeah, face tattoo. Or he had like a I don't know, a birthmark or something.
That's a pretty wicked birthmark.
What if it looked like a normal birthmark, but it like got botched in the cloning process, and it tried to fix it, but not properly? You know, like when you try to like photocopy a bad copy already.
Yeah.
Like, what if that happens? But yeah, Chip is watching through the computer to see what this robot spider is looking at, and we find out that he's taking orders from Cassandra, who is still alive, and recognizes Rose. So the Doctor gets a telepathic message through his psychic paper. He flicks it open, and he gets a little scrolling on there that says, Ward 26, please come. So where Rose wanted to go look at something else, more interesting, I presume, the Doctor's immediately like, oh, I want to go over there to that hospital.
Yeah.
That would be the bad thing about going with the Doctor, right? You'd be like, wow, this is amazing. Can we go check out the culture and see all this? And the Doctor's going to be like, no, let's look at, like, I don't know, his bookshop or something. He's going to be so drawn to the least interesting thing in an interesting place.
Yeah. You're like, oh, let's try the local cuisine, or let's learn about the history, or meet the people. And he's like, nah, there's a dodgy side street. Let's go down.
Yeah, the Doctor's that guy that, like, goes on holiday to Rome and then eats in McDonald's. Like, that's him.
Don't act like we didn't do that.
We did do that. If anyone's curious, you can get cheesy fries in Italy.
You can, and a beer.
Yeah, they sell beer on the McDonald's menu.
Which is really weird.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah, they head to the New York hospital, and when they head inside, after the immediate distraction that is filmed inside the Millennium Centre in Cardiff Bay, they realise it's run by sort of humanoid feline nuns.
Or as Rose says, they're cats.
Yeah, Rose goes, they're cats.
And the Doctor goes, don't stare.
So yeah, he says, don't stare. What do you think you look like to them? All yellow and pink.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of like human cats. They belong to an order called the Sisters of Plentitude.
Which
what?
Oh, don't worry. I was just going to say it's just a bit of a strange name. Plentitude.
Plenty of them. Yeah, so
typical cats.
So they're trying to find the right ward because obviously they're heading towards 26. And they kind of get separated because the doctor, after complaining that there's no little shop because he wants a little shop for some reason, he gets inside a lift and Rose is kind of dragging her heels a bit. So the door closes and separates them. So he's going up and she's like, oh, don't worry, I'll get the next one. He's screaming through. He goes, watch out for the disinfectant. She goes, the what? The disinfectant. The what? And he goes, that. Oh, never mind. You'll find out. So she gets in the lift next to it. And
they get disinfected.
They do, yeah. So it immediately starts like soaking them.
I like the different reactions. Like the doctor's just like having a wash, and he's just like, ah.
Yeah, because they get like sprayed. It's like a car wash. They get sprayed with water, and then they get blow dried afterwards. And the doctor's like loving it, and he's all smiling. His hair's blowing everywhere, and Rose gets caught so off guard because Billie Piper didn't know she was going to be hit with that water.
No, she didn't. She's like, oh God, help.
He did it because he thought it would be funny. As a joke. I don't think he actually intended that to be the take, but he said the reaction was too funny to not use. so yeah, he used it anyway. So back at Chip and Cassandra's place, Chip overrides the lift controls. So even though Rose asked to go up to Ward 26, he sends her down into the basement. I said this to you when we were watching it, but that shot of the lift going down is just reused from Rose, right at the beginning when she goes to see Wilson. So.
To be fair, like elevator shaft or lift shaft.
I mean, you wouldn't notice, would you? Like,
probably all look the same. I've never been inside one, so
unless
I'm
you're very
nerdy
and you remember specifically the angle and the look of that lift, you're not going to notice. You're not going to be like, hold on, I don't believe this hospital has that kind of lift shaft. Do you know what I mean? Unless you just memorize that shot very well.
Unless you either memorize that shot or work on lifts.
Yeah, I guess.
You're like, actually, that lift is this type of lift.
Yeah. So she steps out and she's like, I'm looking for Ward 26. And Chip was like, this way, Rose Tyler, and runs away all like sketchy. And you know he's sketchy because she immediately picks up a pipe.
you gotta laugh the way he's like scampers off.
I think he's like, he might as well go.
He's just like really
he looks evil, doesn't he?
In his gown.
Yeah.
And his little hat.
Yeah, he picks up a pipe. She picks up a pipe and slowly kind of goes down the corridor, clearly ready to knock his head off his shoulders.
I mean, to be fair, he knows her name. He could have been a little bit less.
Yeah, he could have been more discreet with his treachery.
But either way, like, not always the case, but if you had gone onto a hospital ward and then seemingly a patient came up to you and you were like, I'm looking for this ward, and they're like, follow me, and then scampers off. Do you mean, would you follow them eagerly?
You'd just make an excuse, wouldn't you? You'd make up a story as to why you need their attention. I don't know.
Yeah.
He had time to prepare. He knew she was coming. She was up on a hill miles away.
Yeah.
Oh, I just remembered as well, there's that little joke, isn't it? The editing joke where when Cassandra sees Rose and she goes, that little, and then it cuts to Rose going, bit rich.
Yeah. There's quite a few of those in this episode.
I love Russell's humour so much. He's so funny. So back upstairs, the doctor comes out the lift and he's escorted through Ward 26 by Sister Jat. I don't know if you recognised her, but Sister Jat is played by the lady who would go on to play Francine Jones, Martha's mum.
Yeah, Adjoa Andoa?
Nailed it.
I don't think I did.
No, I don't know. It's one of those names where I would always preface it by saying, I'm going to butcher this, I'm sorry.
Yes, I probably did. I'm sorry. Yeah, plays Martha's mum.
Yeah.
And also, she's in, many things, including Bridgerton.
Is she?
Yeah.
Have you seen Bridgerton?
I've seen many clips.
Is that one of those shows you watch through YouTube shorts?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Brain rot.
Yeah, so the doctor tells Sister Jat, there's no little shop downstairs. I put a little shop downstairs. She tells him about the vow that the Sisterhood of Plentitude takes, which is to like help and mend. They pass this dude, a very large man, who's lying in bed and he's turning to stone.
And his assistant is just the worst.
Frau Clovis. I had to write her name down.
Get in the bin, Frau.
Yeah, Frau Clovis. Don't like you very much.
No. To be fair.
The doctor's obviously naturally intrigued because the guy we find out is the Duke of Manhattan, and he's dying from petrifold regression, which slowly turns him to stone. So the doctor's just kind of asked him about it, and yeah, Frau Clovis is basically telling the doctor off for staring at him.
Yeah, she said, you need permission to look upon him.
Yeah. Sister Jat says she's pretty confident that he'll be healed in no time, even though the doctor says that the cure for this disease won't be available for another 1,000 years. But they seem pretty confident about it. So Jat asks the doctor if he recognizes any of the patients. She says it's strange for someone to visit without knowing any of the patients. And he immediately sees someone he recognizes. So he goes to the end and he sees the face of Boe but at the back of the room, asleep in his little tank.
He's so cute.
It's a great prop, isn't it?
It is such a great prop.
Yeah. Can you imagine, it would have looked really bad, wouldn't it, if they chose to do him through CGI?
Oh, God, it would have been rough.
But yeah, it looks really good. And I like the fact that when he does talk, his speech isn't synced up to the lips, but it's fine because he communicates through telepathy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So at the moment, the face of Boe is asleep, and he's being tended to by Novice Haim.
She says he's dying.
Yeah, she says he's got the one thing that they can't cure, old age, basically.
Which, how does that work with Jack or Boe?
Do you want the answer to that? At least what I interpret to be the answer.
Okay, go on.
All right, so side tangent. Spoilers for Series 3.
And Torchwood.
Well, it doesn't really come up in Torchwood, but...
Well.
So if you don't know, skip forward a couple of seconds. So it's implied towards the end of Series 3 that Captain Jack Harkness eventually becomes the face of Boe. Obviously, when Rose brings him back to life at the end of Series 1, she makes him a fixed point in time, which means that he can't die. So every time he dies, he just comes back to life, which means over thousands, even millions of years, he evolves and will eventually become the big face in a tank, right? So the theory as to why he is eventually able to die the next time they meet is because the next time they meet, his story, which we'll talk a bit about later, but there's that legend that he will talk to a traveler and he'll pass the message on. Next series, we find out that message is "You are not alone," which pays off as the Doctor meets the Master, and essentially the face of Boe knows the Doctor's not alone because he already experienced those events as Jack.
Yeah.
So he became a fixed point in time because he had to tell the Doctor that. Which is why as soon as he was able to do that, he could die.
He could die.
That's my theory, at least.
So I know this is going to be lots of timey-wimey stuff, but you may be able to answer this. So from this point of Boe dying in this hospital...
He doesn't die here.
I said dying.
Oh, sorry. Right, okay.
To the point where he says to the Doctor, "You're not alone."
Yes.
How much time is that in Boe life?
I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Because obviously, again, jumping forward, but he escapes, or not escapes, but he moves on, or...
From here?
What's the word?
Teleports.
Teleports out at the end. But I guess he could teleport to then.
I don't think he's a time traveller.
I don't know. But
I don't think he's still got that vortex manipulator.
But then...
I don't know. I'm sure once we get to that episode, I'll try and do some research and try and figure out what year that takes place in.
Yeah.
And we'll try and work it out.
Okay.
But yeah, tangent over. Right. So the face of Boe's dying of old age. So back downstairs in the basement, Rose is exploring and she finds a projector whirring and is projecting some film onto a wall where she can see a party being attended by a bunch of rich people, including a blonde woman. And
there's a lot of young men standing around this blonde woman.
Yeah.
As she's having a chat.
And when she talks, Rose kind of what's the word? Identifies the voice.
Yeah.
And she works it out to be Cassandra, and she turns around and sees Cassandra as we know her, the bitchy trampoline. kind of just sat there behind her, just looking a bit weird. She says that she reconstructed herself using another piece of her skin. She's got like her brain in a tank. She says,
this is another bit of your favourite.
Yeah. So she says, Rose says, like, how are you, like, I saw you get ripped apart. And Cassandra says, that skin was from the front of my body. This is from the back. And Rose goes, right, so you're talking out of your, and then she goes, ask not. Yeah, it's good. It's a good joke. I like it.
Boo.
Cassandra explains that Chip is a frost-grown clone who's basically devoted to Cassandra. He does everything he can to... Well, what does he say? He says, like, I am devoted to all her...
it's like I tend to all her needs or something.
Yeah, he says all her something needs and physical needs. And then Rose goes like, right, you can stop right there, Chip.
Yeah. I like how Rose asks Cassandra, before she knows it's Chip, she asks Cassandra, like, what about Gollum?
yeah, that's true.
And she's like, that's Chip.
He does give Gollum vibes.
Oh, yeah. Which I know it would have been what's like common knowledge or pop culture at that point, even now. But I just love the idea of like Rose really liking Lord of the Rings.
I don't think Rose would have the patience to sit through a 3-hour movie.
You don't know.
I just can't imagine it. She strikes me as watching, like, Hollyoaks.
Maybe.
She strikes me as that kind of person.
I don't know, because I ain't got the patience for Hollyoaks, but I got the patience for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, but you're not like Rose.
Maybe. In so many ways.
Yeah. So Cassandra basically says that she suspects that the sisters are hiding something, and she needs Rose's help, or rather, her body. So she tells Chip to activate the psychograft, which kind of, it's like a machine standing in the doorway that Rose entered through, and it kind of locks her hands to the side, so she's like trapped, she can't move. And Cassandra kind of leaves her skin body and possesses Rose's body.
Goodbye, trampoline. Which I love the idea.
Goodbye, trampoline. Hello, blondie.
I love the idea that Rose calling her a bitchy trampoline is stuck with her, and she's like, I am a trampoline.
Yeah, she's got a complex now.
Yeah.
I just think Zoe Wanamaker's great.
She is great.
Which was, hello, blondie. Considering for most of this episode, Cassandra is played by Billie Piper.
Yeah.
I think for the brief bit of Zoe Wanamaker we get, I think she's really good. And so she possesses Rose and gets up immediately, moisturise me.
And she's like, arms.
Yeah, she goes, oh, and she's getting used to having limbs and stuff again. And then she sees her reflection, she goes, oh my God, I'm a chav.
So stupid.
Yeah. So back upstairs in War 26, Novice Haim is telling the Doctor of the legend surrounding the Face of Boe. She says he's said to have lived for thousands of years, maybe even millions, even though that's impossible. And that one day he will give his dying message to a wanderer without a home, a lonely god. The Doctor, it's a bit vain, and he kind of immediately is like, oh, well, that's me. Yeah. So back downstairs, Cassandra's kind of reading Rose's thoughts, and she works out that the man she's with is the Doctor. She goes, same Doctor with a new face. That hypocrite.
Which, again, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, I must get his plastic surgery.
Yeah, she does. So she thinks that the Doctor can help her discover, like, the sisterhood secrets. So she kind of like bluffs her way through a phone call with him. She pulls out the phone and the Doctor calls her, doesn't he? He calls the phone. She's like, what's that beeping? And Chip says like, it's a primitive communications device. And she goes, how does she talk? And he goes, like, old like, London Cockney.
Didn't she say like apples and pears or something?
Yeah, how did she answer the phone? I should have written this down. I can't remember.
It's terrible. It's great.
Yeah. She has this entire conversation because the Doctor says, oh, you never guess who I'm with. I'm with the Face of Boe. You remember the Face of Boe? She goes, of course I do. That old boat race. She goes, up the apples and pears.
You got to look, fair play to Billie Piper. Like, to do, because I don't know, from what I've heard, her general accent, like her out of character accent,
Yeah.
isn't exactly the same as Rose.
Yeah, I think she talks more like Cassandra.
Yeah. So the fact that she's putting on like Rose's accent, but then Cassandra's accent, but then Cassandra trying to be Rose, it's
funny because we get a similar thing next episode in Tooth and Claw with the Doctor's doing a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
But it's obviously David Tennant being a Scottish man, but he's not just doing his own accent, he's doing like an exaggerated Scottish accent. Yeah. I find things like that quite funny.
Same. I like that. But yeah.
I'm so trying to remember how she answers the phone. Doesn't she say like "watcher" or something like that? I can't remember. She says something weird when she answers the phone. But yeah, she agrees she's going to go up and meet the Doctor on Ward 26, and she has this little like perfume spray that she tucks into her cleavage, and she like checks herself out in the mirror and she goes, "Nice rear bumper." It's quite uncomfortable to watch.
It's really, this episode is uncomfortable to watch in many scenes.
Yeah. So back upstairs, the Doctor is he's surprised to see that the Duke of Manhattan is now in perfect health. He's been cured completely. He interrogates one of the nurses, Matron Casp, on how they were able to cure him, and she kind of like dodges his questions. She just says like, "Hey, we work really hard at it," and he's like, "You shouldn't have this cure for like 1,000 years," because he says like, "What's in there?" And she's like, "Oh, I can't tell you. It's
like patient confidentiality or something, isn't it?"
Yeah,
as she says.
Yeah. So he's a bit suspicious, and then she gets summoned to intensive care by Sister Jat. So they go down to quote unquote intensive care, which looks like a massive, like it's so big, but it's like a massive room. I say a room.
Vault.
Yeah, it's like a massive expanse of vaults that are kind of like covered in like green doors. And they open one of them and they see a nun, but we don't see it on camera, but it's like we're getting like a POV shot from a patient who's sitting in one of the pods, and he kind of reaches his arms out and he's like pleading for help. They seem more amazed the fact that he can speak. And Cass basically says, "Yeah, incinerate it," which
they do.
Yeah,
and
so they just pull a lever.
Screaming.
Yeah, horrifying. Yeah. So Cassandra finally joins the Doctor up on Ward 26, and he explains his confusion to Rose about the about the cures and how the Sisterhood have it. He says they've developed vaccines for like several like incurable diseases. Marconi's disease, because there's a guy who's like got bright red skin lying in bed. The doctor says it should take years to recover from, but he's going to be okay in like 10 minutes or something like that. There's another guy, he says, I wrote this down, he's got pallidome pancreasis.
He's like all white, isn't he? He's like literally like sheet white.
Yeah, he said should kill the victim within 10 minutes.
And he's still there. Yeah.
Cassandra / Rose is just behaving a bit weirdly.
She snogs the Doctor.
Yeah, she does, yeah. She does a proper snog. The shot from the trailer, and she walks off, and the Doctor just kind of swoops his head back and goes, "Yep, still got it."
Oh, I hate that. I hate that. Why?
You want a little bit of an ego boost when you get to like 900 to know that you still got it, right?
Yeah, but he's not. He's thinking still got it because he's changed from Eccleston to him. He's like, yeah, she still likes me.
Can you imagine Eccleston saying that?
No, I can't.
Yeah. So they find a secret terminal, and they gain access to intensive care. It's funny, this whole thing, because the Doctor's like looking at the computer, and Rose, in quotations, is like, "Why don't you just do this?" And the Doctor's like, "Oh yeah, of course." And I think that's again something else is kind of tipping him towards something's wrong, because he's like, "How the hell does Rose know that?"
Yeah, she's like, "Well, why haven't you just tried this?"
Yeah. So they get into intensive care where they discover the vault, as we'll call it. So there are like hundreds of pods. Each one is holding like an artificially grown human being that's been infected with like every disease, apparently. I don't know how that doesn't... If one of the diseases is something that kills you in 10 minutes, I don't know how they're not all dead. But hey.
Is it all the bad fighting all the bad? Maybe they got so much bad in this system.
It's like maths, where it's like so much negative, it kind of like equals out into a positive. This disease, if you have it at the same time as this other disease, it cancels it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it looks like the sisters have built like a human farm, essentially, to breed carriers of diseases so they can experiment and work on cures. And any that are healthy enough to like move or speak, they just kind of kill them, which is awful and evil, one might even say. So the doctor confronts Novice Haim, but she insists that they're not real people, they're just flesh. She says it was necessary to cope with the influx of patients and diseases, but the doctor demands that they... Well, he's basically saying, like, hey, no, they are alive. What you're doing is murder, basically. Yeah. And he also demands that they reverse what they've done to Rose. So she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like... This is quite a good moment where he says, like, look, I'm being calm. I'm being very calm.
Yeah.
But... what you're doing to these people is awful, and Rose would care. Yeah. And yeah, it's that thing of him, like, not shouting. But when he says, like, I'm being very calm, you get that impression, like, oh, he's, like, he can blow up. And
I think it's quite interesting because when they open the first door on the first patient, Doctor and Rose, or Cassandra, the Doctor's reaction is like, I'm so sorry. And Rose or Cassandra's, ew.
Rose goes, oh, it's disgusting.
Yeah. Which, again, I mean, that are pointed to him of being like, well, but she just thinks how gross.
Yeah. But now that Cassandra knows her cover's blown, she kind of reveals her... The doctor says, who are you? And she goes, the last human. And he very quickly goes, Cassandra. He's like, works it out. So you'd think, like, because of how much time's passed, he'd have to go, what? And he'd have to, like, think about it, but he remembers very quickly.
Which last human?
Yeah.
At what point in time and space?
I haven't met a shielder yet.
Yeah.
So Cassandra kind of reveals her identity to him and then pulls the perfume out of her bosom and sprays it in his face and just knocks him out on the spot. So when the doctor wakes up, he's kind of, like, trapped inside one of those pods. He's going to be... presumably injected with the diseases, or maybe even just incinerated. I don't know.
No, she says that every 10 minutes they spray all the diseases into the pod.
Oh, did I miss that?
Yeah, and she said, oh, and you've got, I think she said something like, you've got like 3 minutes left or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, apparently to keep the dosage up for all the patients, they spray all the diseases in.
God, that's horrible.
That is horrible, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you know, I've got long, so...
Yeah. Cassandra's trying to blackmail Matron Casp. She says she wants money in exchange for basically not telling everyone about what they're doing. Just funny. She says, like, we're a charity. We only take money.
Which is true.
Yeah. And she, like, threatens Cassandra. Then Cassandra says, like, oh, who are you kidding? You're not exactly nuns with guns. You're not even armed. She goes, who needs arms when you have claws?
She doesn't even take her gloves off. She just ruins her gloves. And she's like, well, that backfired.
Yeah, Cassandra immediately starts, like, backing away and goes like, oh, well, there goes that plan. She has Chip kind of release some of the plague carriers to help kind of, like, cover her escape. So he opens, like, maybe like 10 of the pod doors, something like that.
Which luckily, one of those being the Doctor.
Yes. I mean, it makes sense. They're next to it, but like...
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it's lucky, isn't it? Chip could have, I don't know, could have opened up the level above. Or below.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah. She's like, quick, Chip, open it up, and he opens it up, and then one, like, half a mile away goes, just like one door opens.
But I love the idea. She's like, you're going to stay in there, Doctor, and you're not going to stop me. And then, like, within a minute, it's like, I take it back. We've released you now.
Yeah.
Good old Chip.
Yeah. So the plague carriers start walking towards the sisters. One of them sacrifices himself. He kind of, like, punches, like, a power panel.
Which opens all of them.
Which, like, electrocutes him and just kills him, but it causes, like, a power surge, which opens all the doors. So basically every patient is able to get out, or, like, thousands of them.
Yeah.
So all these sort of, like, diseased carriers start basically going like zombies, and they start walking towards the nuns.
And they start hissing at them.
Yeah. She starts like swiping, doesn't she, with the claws? Yeah. Sister Jats gets touched, and in a CGI abomination, we get to watch a
boily mess.
Yeah, the boils and pimples and
Blech.
gross stuff kind of appear on her face.
I mean,
it doesn't look good.
I mean, can she survive that? Maybe she survives.
This is what I mean. Like, it depends. If they have all the diseases, she should have the one that kills her in 10 minutes. But
yeah, but then they all survived it. So if they gave her everything, maybe she can also survive.
Maybe
at the end, like.
But then again, maybe they were, because they like specifically like grown. Maybe they grown to have like I don't know, a specific DNA makeup that makes them resilient enough to carry it but not die. Oh, actually, yeah. Because don't they say something that they are carriers? They're clones of carriers. People that survived.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they mentioned that.
Saying that though, also she's not the same species.
That's another good point.
So.
Yeah. But anyway, Sister Jack. I'm assuming she dies. She gets infected and we never see her again. So.
Yeah.
The rest of the carriers kind of just run throughout the build. I say run, shuffle throughout the building. Yeah. And Casp kind of puts the hospital under quarantine, and she like seals the exits. The doctor is like somehow able to push his way past people without getting touched. Don't know what's going on there. Cassandra's running and
just screaming.
Yeah, because the doctor meets up with Cassandra in Rose's body, and Chip is there and they're running, but then they get kind of split up and Chip is separated from the other two.
Cassandra's like, leave him.
Very quickly leaves him. She goes, "Oh, leave him.
He's only a half-life anyway. He hasn't got long."
He's there going, "Mistress." And the doctor says, "I'm sorry, I can't let her escape." And they just abandon him. And he runs and he jumps down like a toxic waste pipe or something.
Yeah.
I'm expecting like the Mariner was like the doo 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 as he like falls down the tube. Yeah. So yeah, they eventually get trapped in the basement, and the doctor basically demands that Cassandra leaves Rose's body, which she does.
And I've put weird breath transfer.
Yeah, she goes like, oh, and just kind of like transfers the essence into the doctor.
Oh.
And she goes, "Oh, look, I'm a man."
So many parts and
hardly used. Yeah, 2 hearts. Yeah. Then she kind of starts taunting Rose. She's like, "I've been in your head. You've been looking. You like it."
She's like, "Ooh, slim and a little foxy."
Yeah,
I hate
she goes, "Slim." I said David Tennant goes, he like raises his arm and goes, "And a little bit foxy."
That's so bad. I hate it.
I like it just because I'm imagining David Tennant filming it.
Yeah, but you know he'd love that. He's got that sense of humour.
Oh, well, that's the thing then, because the carriers eventually like come in and they like breach the doors, and David Tennant's switch up very quickly from the a little bit foxy to "What would you do? What would the doctor do? Oh, what would you do?" And Rose like spots like a ladder that they can use to like climb up and escape to the lift shaft, and she goes to climb, and Cassandra in the doctor's body just kind of shoves her out of the way.
Yeah.
She's like, "Move along, blondie." Just like starts climbing up. Which is, I just like the fact that she says that even though that she used to be blonde as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so once they're quite a bit up the ladder, Matron Casp is at the bottom, and she's grabbing onto Rose's foot. She's like trying to stop them. The carriers are kind of climbing up behind them at the bottom of the ladder, and one of them touches Matron Casp, and she gets infected and then falls down the tunnel in another CGI mess. This
is terrible. I literally say the visual on this. Yikes.
Yeah, it's like she's like falling, but the camera's like tracked to her. So it's not like a shot looking down. It's like she's falling, the camera's locked to her, and you're just watching the background like whiz past.
Yeah.
And she's like spinning, and it doesn't look great.
It looks terrible.
Yeah. CGI's not very good in this episode.
No.
But the actual like practical effects are really good. Like the Sisterhood look really good.
Yeah,
and the Face of Boe in his tank look really good. But yeah, anything CGI in this episode is not the best. Like even the background, when they're standing in that room with all the pods, even that looks a bit rubbish.
But I think things like that you can gloss over in it. But
But to be honest, if
you're just like,
there's
oh.
one CGI thing in this episode that I think is like affects it in the worst way, it's the effect of when they get touched. And then you see all the boils and stuff appear on their face.
I don't mind that so much.
I find that's the worst one.
No, I think the matron falling down.
I think that's the worst.
I put down the well.
The well.
It's not a well.
The lift shaft.
The lift shaft. Yeah.
The well. Yeah.
That is terrible. That is the worst. That made me go. Ooh.
Yeah.
But yes.
They eventually reach like a stop for the lift, and Rose tells Cassandra to like sonic the door, and she's like, "How does it work?" And he's like, "I don't know. He's blocking his thoughts. Like, I can't do it." So Rose says, "Look, come into me so he can get us out." So Cassandra goes back into Rose's body, and the doctor demands that she leaves Rose's body. So, kind of working out that, hey, this is just going to be a bit of a back and forth. Cassandra leaves Rose's body. No? Yeah? Rose's body.
Yeah.
And goes into one of the carriers at the bottom.
Yeah, she literally says, "Oh, God, I'm going to regret this."
Yeah, I'm going to regret this. And, possesses one of the carriers. And then the doctor kind of opens the door, and then him and Rose climb inside, and then just before the door closes, Cassandra leaves the carrier again and then possesses Rose again.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to explain this because it all happens. There's
Very
a lot
quickly,
happening very
yeah.
quickly, but yeah.
I really like this little section, though. The fact that, obviously, Cassandra as Rose.
Yes. Because the doctor's kind of angry, isn't he? Because he
Yeah.
thought he was going to pull a fast one.
Yeah. But I like the fact that she just slumps down onto the floor against the wall, and she's like, I saw her thoughts, and it's so dark, and she's so alone.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that Cassandra's...
She's never been touched.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's all, she's like, and that's all she wants. She's just reaching out to hold somebody. And I like the fact that we have a bit more of, humanity from Cassandra. Because we've never had that before.
She's always been kind of a cartoony villain, isn't she? She's been a villain that we're not really supposed to take seriously because she's been the butt of a lot of jokes with the whole moisturize me thing, and there's the whole like one of Earth's classical composers, the iPods, and this whole thing with the innuendos and stuff like that. So this is like the first time you actually kind of take her seriously as a person.
Yeah, well, I guess it's that thing of like, other than literally physically, her humanity has been taken. Humanity.
She has a manatee.
Chip.
Oh no!
One before Chip, the manatee. Her humanity has been taken from her.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't remember whether it's said, but she's obviously been. It's been a long time since she's been in her original form.
Yes.
And all she's focused on after that point is herself and getting her operations and making sure she looks a certain way and making
bleaching her blood,
making sure she survives. So she hasn't had a thought of anyone else. So
there's like 600 operations or whatever she had. Isn't it funny then that after her body's destroyed, she gets put in the skin on her back and she looks exactly the same?
I know. The first thing I thought when I saw her was her blood isn't bleached.
Yeah.
But saying that though, she never had that operation.
Oh yeah, she never had that procedure. Yeah,
No.
she got killed first. Yeah. They eventually reached Ward 26 back where they were originally. It seems to be the only place that the carriers haven't gotten into yet. Frau Clovis and the Duke of Manhattan and everyone's kind of been like barricading the doors shut.
Bo's just sitting in the corner watching.
What can he do? Johnny.
I think he's sleeping. No, he's not sleeping at this point. He's just waking up, isn't he?
He's EP. He's just like.
To be fair, he's in his tank. They can't touch him.
Yeah. Frau Clovis has like a device with her that she's going to try and contact the police for help.
Yeah.
The doctor tells her not to do it because currently the hospital's quarantined, and if she does, it'll break quarantine and could infect the city.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not going to die here.
And he says, "Oh, I realise I have to fight you as well."
Yeah, he says something like, "If I have to fight all of you, I will," or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So his plan involves grabbing all of the cures and uses a winch from the Duke of Manhattan's sickbed. I forgot to mention, but the Duke of Manhattan, because he's a big guy, he's on like a hoist. So the Doctor uses that to kind of make a winch, which he attaches to the lift shaft.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he jumps into the lift shaft and he's ready, and then he tells Cassandra and Rose's body to come on. She's like, not in a million years.
I like how he's like fashioned a harness around
he's
him,
made
which
like
he's like strapped all of the...
What do you call it? I can't remember what you call it. Like a... I can't remember. The words escaping me. You know, like the kind of thing you imagine like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando, or like Rambo to it. Bandolier, is that what it's called?
I think so, yeah.
It's like a sash type thing that goes over your torso where you store like
grenades.
bullets and grenades and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of like fashioned one of them and he's got all these cures on it. So yeah, eventually he manages to convince Cassandra to jump onto the winch with him.
Only because the others in the ward have closed that entrance and now the carriers have gotten into the hallway.
Yeah.
So she hasn't really got a choice.
Yeah. She just like, when she runs, she just go like, "Ah!" She doesn't want to do it. But she jumps and grabs onto him, and then the both of them zip down in another CGI mess. Eventually get to the bottom, and they're now standing on the roof of one of the lifts, which, as we learned earlier, has these kind of disinfection shower things. So he starts emptying all these solutions into the like kind of reservoir on the top.
Yeah.
This is... I don't think I like this.
I don't like this.
As a resolution. I like narratively what it's doing about the whole thing about them never being touched and then having to pass it on. I like that. But the whole thing of, I don't know, maybe it's just me being a bit of a stickler for like science fiction,
I'm with you.
It's this thing of like, I don't believe that just mixing all the cures into one batch would just cure everything.
Also,
do you know what I mean? If that was the case, I feel like it's like, you know, this is going to be a niche reference. Do you remember that bit in Scooby-Doo 2 when Shaggy gets buff?
Yeah.
And Scooby's kind of like a scientist.
Yeah,
And he pulls like two concoctions out the fridge and he just keeps mixing the same two things over and over again. And he's like, I've made a cure. It's like, what? You've just been mixing the same two things over and over again.
Because, look.
It's sci-fi, you take it with a pinch of salt, but it's like, there still has to be an element of sigh in it. You know what I mean? It's like, as this works, I'm just like, I don't think that's how it works, you know?
Well, for multiple reasons. One, I don't know whether this is the case. However, you know the lift,
Yes.
which was in the shot at the start, which was from Rose.
Yeah. That didn't have the reservoir
That didn't have the reservoir on it.
That's just a
No.
continuity error. That's fine.
Yeah. Also, the reservoir hasn't got a cap on it. There's no lid. So as that lift goes up and down, what does the fluid do?
It either spills out or just you get lift dust just in there. I don't know. Things like that don't bother me as such because I can just assume, hey, the Doctor took the cap off screen.
Yeah, but also the fact that the Doctor obviously starts the sanitization thing.
Yeah, he jumps down into the lift. He kind of baits the carriers towards him.
And then spends majority of that scene in the shower himself.
Yeah, I thought that too. I know you don't have it.
This.
Well, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking, I know you don't have any of these illnesses, but would soaking yourself in these cures affect you in some way?
Well, the fact that he's ripping open these bags with his teeth.
Yeah.
But
again, things like that, you could argue maybe looking into it a bit much, but I don't know. I think in general, I like the payoff in terms of, like I say, the fact that the whole thing is they've never been touched, and then and the fact that they have to pass this cure on by touching each other and sharing the cure with each other. I like that a lot. I like that the disinfectant in the lift is set up really early on, and now it comes back to pay off in the finale. I like that. For me, yeah, it's just the whole kind of Deus Ex Machina of just, I have every cure in the hospital in this one room, and now I'm just going to rip all these bags open with my teeth, pour it into one tank, and that somehow fixes everything.
Also, again, I know you're supposed to take it with, I would say, a pinch of salt, but for me, this is a whole box of salts. Yeah. The fact that these are, I'm assuming, again, don't know, but like some sort of IV drip. Mm-hmm. So you would assume it would have to go into the bloodline which most cures
I hadn't
do.
even thought of that, but yeah, good point.
So just putting it on their skin, you could argue it soaks in, but it's...
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like some chemicals for sure can be absorbed through the skin, but not all of them.
Not all of them. And
Yeah.
not only that, you would need quite a significant amount, and you couldn't just touch somebody's arm and then
And
they'd
also,
be
how do you
cured.
make sure they get the appropriate amount to cure them and not enough to OD? Again, this is one of those things where I'm like, it's sci-fi, it's Doctor Who at the end of the day.
I know.
How overly scientific can you be with this?
But I think...
you have to be a bit lenient with it. But yeah, this is what I mean. I like everything this finale does thematically, but nothing that it does literally. Does that make sense?
Even if it's that thing of, again, I'd still have issues with it, but things of even like if you put it into the sprinkler system
Well, across the whole building.
across the whole building,
Would that make a difference?
a little bit more than just like a couple of people getting wet and then touching other people. At least everybody would have got. If you could say it could be administered through like the
Yeah,
skin.
like I say, I don't mind that so much.
You could say they have to huddle under the sprinklers or something. I don't
I'm
know.
okay with it only initially curing like 4 or 5 people and then them passing it on. Like, yeah, okay, it's not as realistic, I guess, as it would be if it was, if he was firing like a harpoon of like IV drips or something. But like, but I think that works. I think the expense of realism there works for the payoff of its thematic resonance. For me, it's just like I've said it a couple of times, but just that thing of just mixing everything into one big pot and just saying that cures everything. I don't agree with that.
Yeah. Whereas it really, for me, it really doesn't pay off. Like it's no.
You are a stickler for realism, though.
I am, yeah.
This is a woman, ladies and gentlemen, right, that enjoyed Interstellar
Go away.
Until the fifth dimension stuff, and
Yeah.
now pretty much sits on the hill of Interstellar's not very good because
Yeah, and I don't
because
care.
it didn't stick to it's a scientific accuracy.
It bothered me too much.
You're too much of a science head. You enjoyed science in school, didn't you?
I love science.
Yeah. The problem is you
And I can-
follow science as a law.
Well, this is the issue I have. What I like about science fiction is that when you find something which is the way our universe is built and the building blocks can be completely different in that world, but they stick to it.
Yeah.
And that's what I like.
Yeah.
But when something like this seems quite clumsily
when
thrown together...
Star Wars just says the Force is a thing, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
and you accept it.
Completely, yes.
Yeah.
And even in many senses, you could say that's very similar to our world. Not the Force,
I wish the Force was real.
But you could say in terms of energy and how it's transferred and using that energy. You look at a lot of like martial arts. They
That's not what I expected that sentence to go.
but a lot of them are in tune with the use of energy and transferring.
Yeah, I guess
it.
it's speed, momentum, kinetic energy. Yeah.
So that I like, and it's like you can link it to our world, but it makes sense on its own. This makes no sense, and therefore I'm completely.
Yeah.
I want to throw myself into a world and completely believe it. And if I can't, it pulls me out, and I'm like,
I guess that's one of those things that like you can kind of do this with anything. If I'm honest, it's like I'd say like for the most part, say Harry Potter. I know that's more fantasy than sci-fi, but that's one of those things where when you just go into a world where you just know magic is a thing, you kind of just accept stuff.
Yeah.
But then there is that thing of like, well, hold on, if they've established that this is a thing, why can't they use it to go do this and that? And then you start poking holes in it.
Yeah, and sometimes in many cases, you're always going to get loopholes and stuff. Again, I love. Oh God, why isn't my brain working? Help me.
How am I supposed to help you? You haven't given me anything to work with. How am I supposed to help you?
I love the writer of the show who comes after Russell T Davies. I can't believe
Stephen Moffat.
Stephen Moffat. I can't believe I've forgotten his name. I love him to bits, and I love his writing. But we both know he has made quite a few doozy little plot holes and.
Moffat?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 But they never pull me out, or that much. But in this case, because the resolution...
I know why they don't pull you out.
Why?
Because you're too distracted by Capaldi's eyebrows.
Well, Capaldi in general. But yeah, no.
Who has more charm, do you think? Peter Capaldi or Jeff Goldblum?
What I'd give to see those two in a room, just vibing with each other.
Jeff Goldblum to be Doctor Number 16.
Oh my god, yes. I don't know. Because it's the resolution of this story. Yeah. You can't avoid it. You can't brush over it. And the fact that it's so focused on, and again, I agree the fact that they haven't been held before makes them, having that come together where they have to hold each other.
Yeah.
That's nice. But
it's the fact that they're not just touching people, but they're touching each other. They're I don't know, growing past this shared trauma they have together.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I really like that thematically, and I'm totally okay with bypassing the logistics of how you can pass the cure via touch for the sake of that. That's a sacrifice I'm happy to make.
Yeah. Or I would have liked it a bit more if Cassandra, or as Rose, had been the one to start the what's it called?
Well, the sprinklers.
The spreading of the cure.
Do you think she would have done that?
But that's what I mean. This is because she was able to see into the mind of one of them.
Yeah.
That would have been a little bit more growth. But what was the point of her, realising that they're lonely other than I think the audience, so she can say it out loud so the audience know that they have never been touched. Other than that,
I guess there is that because it pays this off, but then I think it does also come into play with the end of the episode. With her accepting her fate.
But it kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere.
I guess that's a personal thing.
Again, I think this is why, for me, this episode is just mid at best. At best. I know I'm so harsh, and I know a lot of people love this episode.
I don't know. I don't know if anyone loves this episode.
Okay, we'll be entertained by this episode.
Yeah, so again, some people...
And I am as well.
I think you're harsher than the general Doctor Who fans. Are you harsher than general mainstream audience? I don't know. Because I feel like if you... I don't know. Your parents don't watch Doctor Who, really.
No, they don't.
So I reckon if you went, hey, Mum, watch this with me, and then you showed her this, I don't think she'd be impressed. Do you know what I mean?
No, I don't. But I think I give it more leeway, but because I'm giving it leeway, I expect it to give me something in return. And if it doesn't, doesn't give it back to me, I'm not happy with it. I'm like, well, I trusted you.
That's fair enough. But that's what I mean when I say I'm happy with I think the thematic payoff is enough given back.
No.
For it to be worth it for me.
It's not for me.
Yeah.
But then you love Doctor Who more than I do.
I mean, yeah, but I don't think that's relevant.
I think it is. I definitely think it is.
Anyway.
Yes.
God, that was a tangent.
That was a tangent.
Anyway, so... Yeah, a couple of people get cured and they pass it on via touch, and the Doctor's encouraging them. He's going, pass it on, and they do. And it's a lovely, happy ending. And the Doctor hugs one of them. That's nice.
Yeah. Well, she runs up and hugs the Doctor, doesn't she?
Oh, yeah.
And he says, look at them, a new species.
Yeah. New species, new humans. New humans.
New humans.
Yeah. And we kind of find out that they're getting... I don't know, maybe officially recognised as a subspecies or something like that later on. So the sisters who are still alive are being arrested by the NNYPD.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the kind of cured humans, I think they're taken into care or something. The Doctor remembers that the Face of Boe is still there.
Yeah.
So he returns with Cassandra up to Ward 26. Face of Boe's no longer dying.
No. He went, psych.
He went, peace. The Face of Boe basically says that he'd grown tired of the universe, but the Doctor taught him to look at it anew. The Doctor asked the Face about his message, about telling a story to a lonely god. But the Face of Boe basically says it can wait for their third and final meeting.
Oh.
The Doctor says, oh, does it have to? And he basically says, yeah, pretty much. And he teleports away.
I love it.
And the Doctor goes, that is enigmatic.
Yeah.
That's textbook enigmatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now the Doctor with one last thing to solve, he orders Cassandra out of Rose's body, knowing that it'll kill her, basically.
Yeah. Which he's pretty... Which one thing you did mention in the episode with Rob about this doctor saying that he doesn't give second chances.
Yeah.
When I was listening to that, I did have a thought process of, do you think that he gave or would have given Cassandra a chance as himself? Do you think he would have been like, this is, for me, your first chance? Do you know what I mean?
No, I'm confused.
Because he hadn't met her in this form before. Do you think?
What do you mean in this? Oh, in his incarnation.
In his carnation. Do you think he would?
Or do you think there's no second chance? You think resets?
Yeah. Do you think he's like, well?
Well, that's the thing. Because I think me and Rob in that episode say that, you know, he says no second chances. I'm that kind of a man. But then he proceeds to give people a lot of second chances.
But he, again, if you say this is his first and only chance for Cassandra in this incarnation, at the end he's like, die. so he doesn't let her off.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So when he orders Cassandra out of Rose's body, she starts to like cry.
Yeah.
And she says, "It'll kill me," and he says, "Not my problem. You can exist as atoms in the air." Yeah. So, you know, she's like, "Oh, I don't want to die." Then Chip appears.
Yeah, good old Chip.
Mistress, I saved myself for you. And then Cassandra like perks up very quickly and is like, although the doctor kind of protests. He says, no, you can't do that. He's got a life of his own. She's like, hey, he's only a half life. And he's like, I give myself to the mistress. I welcome her, or something like that. And before the doctor can do anything about it, she jumps out of Rose and into Chip. Doctor and Rose kind of reunite. Finally, for the first time since the start of the episode. They're like, oh, hello, hi. And Chip's half-life body immediately starts to kind of fail. And Cassandra seems to actually now maybe accept her death. She says, I'm dying. And that's good. She says New Earth doesn't have a place for people like her and Chip anymore. So, growth?
I don't know.
It's just the way you looked at me then.
Well, she didn't really have a choice, did she? It was like, well, you're not coming into our bodies.
I mean, if I get a choice, I choose life, but like...
Yeah.
If I don't have a choice, can I at least pretend like it was a choice?
She's accepting it because it's the only option. Do you mean?
That's good, I guess, rather than fighting something that's hopeless.
Well, she can't fight. She's already been fighting it. And at this point, they're like, we're not coming to our bodies. You've had Chips. Chips is dying. You got to accept it.
It's interesting, though, because she can just jump in and out of bodies at will, and whether or not they accept her seems to be irrelevant.
Yeah, but if she jumped into Rose or the doctor,
yeah,
I'm sure there's probably something that could be done.
To what?
Technologically wise. Do you know what I mean?
To what?
To push her out.
Oh, right.
An exorcist or something.
Oh, no. Yeah. So anyway, she's dying in Chip's body, but the doctor says there is one thing he can do for her. So the TARDIS materializes at the party that we saw earlier from the projection.
This I really like.
Yeah, I do too. So it's the party from that video, and Cassandra in Chip's body steps out just to kind of re-witness her life in its prime, I guess.
Well, one thing we did miss earlier, which when Rose walked in on the recording, Cassandra mentioned that this was the last point that somebody called her beautiful.
Yeah, she says that was the last time anybody ever told me I was beautiful. Yeah. So Chip, in quotations, slowly walks over to Cassandra from the past, and he tells her that she's beautiful. And she says something like, oh, thank you, you odd little thing.
And he's like, no,
he says, truly. No, I mean it. You are truly beautiful. And you can tell it's very sincere, and the first one she kind of accepts, as most people accept compliments.
Like,
it's like, thanks. And this time it's almost as if she drowns everyone else in the room out.
Yeah.
And she seems kind of genuinely touched.
Yeah.
And says, thank you again. And then Chip / Cassandra collapses and essentially dies in younger Cassandra's arms, and she's calling for help, and she says, I don't even know who he is, he just came up to me and he's dying, I think we need a doctor, can someone help? And as Cassandra finally dies, the Doctor and Rose quietly walk off into the TARDIS, and that's it. I like the ending.
I like the ending as well.
Yeah,
I think it's very thematic, and it's just
it's nice, I think, for a character like Cassandra that you associate as being very conceited and very selfish and self-obsessed. It's nice to actually have it's kind of funny because she goes out having grown and accepting her death and everything, but at the same time her last act was to call herself beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's like it's growth, but it's also in character at the same time. Yeah
I guess, do you know, it's like, I know this is going to be a bit of a deep one to some extent, but you know how people who struggle with their image, right, and how they feel about themselves.
In what way?
Like how they look and stuff.
Or like style wise, or are you thinking more like body dysmorphia and that kind of stuff?
More like body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
Often a way that therapists and psychologists suggest to people to get you to speak better about yourself is to imagine your younger self and imagine what it'd be like telling them that they're not beautiful or not pretty.
Well, your current self telling your younger self that.
Yeah. And it's like, how would that make you feel saying that to your younger self? It would make you feel horrible. So why would you say it to yourself now? Because you're the same person. So kind of
I don't think that's a good analogy, you know.
Look, I'm not a therapist. I haven't
I
worded
don't think
great.
that's a good analogy, because if I do feel that about my younger self.
Yeah, but it's like,
I look at my younger self, I'm like, oh, dude, that hair, really?
Yeah, but if you genuinely said horrible things to your younger self.
Well, it's horrible, yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. If you thought horrible things about yourself now, if you said those horrible things to your younger self, and to think about how that would have made them feel and how horrible it would be to say something like that to somebody, it's kind of like trying to pull you into the realization of, you shouldn't speak about yourself that way.
Yeah,
you should be kinder to yourself.
I get the message. Yeah.
So, in the sense of Cassandra obviously never being okay with herself.
Yeah.
Do you think
there was always one more operation? There's always one more job to be done.
Do you think that's kind of like, in a therapy-wise, her way of basically going back and being like, no, you are beautiful. Accept yourself for who you are. Yeah,
well, that's the way you look at it, isn't it? You can look at it as she was so kind of like conceited and self-obsessed that her final act was to call herself beautiful. But yeah, there is that element of like
reassuring.
It's reaffirming her biggest insecurity, I guess.
Yeah. Which is in a way it's very sad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's done some horrible things because she's just been so focused on how she looks and how people perceive her.
Yeah.
And even in the episode we mentioned about, jokingly about Rose calling her a bitchy trampoline and her referring to herself as a trampoline.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to see, like, well, this stuff does stick, even though she seems like a heartless bitch. Do you mean? It's
no,
like,
I mean, I feel like we've all done that at some point. We've either made a joke at someone else's expense and maybe not realised that it stuck with them. We've all either done it to someone else or had someone else do it to us. Do you know what I mean? Something said in jest, thinking it's just a little joke, and then sometimes you even take it as a joke in the moment, but then you reflect on it maybe even like days later. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, actually, is that true? And then you kind of get all up in your own head about it. We're very delicate.
Well, yeah, and she is human at the end of the day.
Yes.
But I think that's what I quite like, is the subtleties of her character that I like. And I wish we had
for
more.
a cartoonish character, she does have some nuance.
Yeah, I wish we had a little bit more of that nuance.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Do you enjoy it? God, the exhale. Don't need to say anything. That said it all.
Okay, did you enjoy it?
I think this is a 4 out of 10 Doctor Who episode. I think this is average-ish. If I had to lean one way, I would say it's more bad than it is good. I don't dislike it. I certainly don't hate it. There are moments I like. I say I like the thematics of the finale. There's some good jokes in it. However, I think the ending, not the bit with Cassandra, but the passing on the cure is a bit contrived, maybe. But it's a bit too easy. And yeah, some of the CGI is a bit messy. And I think as much as I like Cassandra Rose and Cassandra Doctor, do you mean, and David Tennant and Billie Piper getting to kind of play off it a little bit, it feels weird for an episode 1 to have them, to basically have our new Doctor and companion not be together for most of it.
Especially because the Christmas special, they weren't together.
For the Christmas special, most of the time they're not together because the Doctor's in bed, and now they're mostly not together because there's somebody else. So, next episode, it's kind of the first time we actually get to see them have an entire adventure together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, kind of an interesting thing about that, I say it's kind of weird this being episode 1. I do know that there's a bit of contention with Series 2 about what episode 1 was going to be, because originally The Girl in the Fireplace was going to be episode 1.
Oh, that would be a banger of an opener.
I don't think it would have worked thematically.
Probably not thematically.
When you think about... I don't know how well you remember it, but when you think of a lot of what's going on in that episode with Renette and the Doctor and how her life and death affect him as a person, I feel like that would be not only quite heavy, but also a bit
heavy for a first episode. Yeah,
I don't know, just a bit dramatically deep for an opener. Like I say, episode 1 of a series is always a bit of a romp.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, I think that's that. But I know Tooth and Claw was also originally going to be episode 1, but it got pushed back to episode 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, thoughts on the episode. Are you a fan? Are you hating it, or are you thinking it's very middling?
I'm all of the above.
Okay.
But as a
all right, do this for me then. Give me
as an average of all those feelings, we're in the middle.
All right, do this for me. Give me your biggest down for the episode. What's your biggest peeve?
There's so many.
I feel like this contradicts what you just said. But
there's a lot of peeves. I mean, I get other than the ending, not the Cassandra ending.
Yeah.
The ending with
the pass
Sharon.
It on.
That.
Okay.
No.
What's a middling? Yeah.
I think the tone and maybe the pacing a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit. I don't know. We get a lot of time. It's very back heavy. So much happens at the end, and nothing happens.
I agree. Yeah, because I feel like from the time the action kicks off to when it's resolved seems very quick.
Yeah, literally from the point where the what's it called? The carriers are released.
Yes.
To them getting cured is very fast,
Yeah.
especially because it is played off as fast paced as well.
Yeah.
Which it would be. I don't know. I just feel like
that's fair.
I would have liked a little bit more downtime. Maybe when the Doctor and Rose go to the ward, a little bit more downtime there to kind of stop and reflect.
Yeah.
Would have been better, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. And what do you like?
I really like seeing Cassandra again.
Just in general?
Just in general. I like Cassandra's character. I love...
Hello, Blondie.
I don't like that. I love the...
Do you like Chip?
I do like Chip. I just feel... I'm like, yeah, it's Chip. Do you mean? I don't feel strongly either way about Chip.
I don't feel strongly either way. It's Chip.
It's just Chip. I think the strong feelings is the ending of
the Cassandra ending.
The Cassandra ending. I like that. I'm trying to think what else happened in this episode.
I love it when you say things like that.
I love Boe.
Oh, you like the Face of Boe?
I want more Boe. I love him.
Well, you get him one more time.
I know, look at his big old squishy face.
Oh.
No.
Why do you think he's squishy?
He's obviously squishy.
What if he has a surprisingly hard face?
Well, like an elephant.
Sure.
Like an elephant.
If that's your frame of reference for a hard face, sure.
No, like, I know this is
Some would say like a person, but yeah.
What person do you know has a hard face?
Well, I don't think I have a squishy face.
You have a squishy face.
All right, screw you then.
No, I was like an elephant's foot. You know.
All right, we're moving on.
Well, at least let me elaborate on that.
Nope, we're leaving it there. It's funnier that way.
Okay. Do your research into elephants' feet, people. They're really interesting.
Do you want the 2 working titles I have for New Earth?
Go on then.
Body Swap,
Bleh.
The Sunshine Camp. Do you prefer New Earth?
The Sunshine Camp.
Hey, I got to tick a box to say this isn't explicit. Watch your language.
What the frick? The Sunshine Camp. What is that?
What about Body Swap? Do you like Body Swap?
Body swap makes sense. They swap bodies. Where does the Sunshine Camp come from?
Good Lord.
Please, do you have any more information on that?
Nope. Sorry, Russell. Please elaborate.
Please elaborate on the Sunshine Camp.
Do you want...
God.
Well, I have 2 facts here, and...
Chuck 'em my way.
I think you might find them interesting. So the Face of Boe was originally going to die in this episode.
I'm glad he didn't.
And the only way for the Doctor to... sorry. I've written my notes very weird here. These are 2 separate facts, but I've written them as one sentence. So yeah, the Face of Boe was originally going to die in this episode, and the only way for the Doctor to cure all the diseased people was to kill them all.
Yeah.
It was going to be like a mercy killing, essentially. But Russell basically read Stephen Moffat's introduction segment in the Shooting Scripts book for Series 1.
Yeah.
And Stephen Moffat said that Russell T Davies, in quotes here, creates interesting characters and then melts them. So based on this, Russell T Davies decided to have them all survive instead.
Go on, Moffat.
So I found that quite funny.
Oh, the funniest thing is the fact that obviously they're very good friends.
Yes.
So the fact that he read that and it's like, Stephen thinks I melt all of my characters. Well, I'll show him. I'll keep them all alive.
It's ironic though, isn't it? Because Moffat's got the opposite problem. Moffat doesn't let anyone die.
Russell kills them off.
No, like Moffat writes characters, gives them really meaningful deaths, and then brings them back.
Yeah, which I'm so there for.
And then I've got one more fact, which might be maybe my favourite fact ever about anything. Okay. So, back in the day, just for anyone who's maybe a bit younger and doesn't know this, Netflix, before it was the streaming service we know today, worked more like Blockbuster, where you could like rent DVDs and stuff. Mm-hmm. So Netflix had DVD copies of this episode.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
And they were pulled back in January 2007 after footage from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, was spliced in by accident.
The shock on my face right now.
She's agape, her mouth is open.
Where?
Where what?
Can I ask where?
Well, where was the footage spliced?
Where was it spliced?
I don't know.
Oh, no. Can you imagine if it was the doors open and then all of a sudden...
Just Leatherface comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, that might be one of my favourite facts ever. Can't you be like, oh, come on, babe, we got the new Doctor Who episode rented from Netflix. Come on, let's go. We'll pop the disc in. And it's like, goodbye, trampoline, hello, Blondie. And he just cuts like the dinner scene from Texas Chainsaw. Yeah.
Oh, no.
How many children do you think got scarred by that?
Even better. If she was like, that was part of the front half of my body, this is part of the back, and then this Leatherface just ring.
You think it's a flashback?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh, do you know?
Yeah. How many children do you think got scarred by that?
How many?
They were definitely complaints, right?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say how many complaints.
Yeah.
Many.
Yeah,
that is brilliant.
That's everything I have about New Earth.
I don't have anything of substance. However, I do have a little food for thought. A food for thought.
Easy for you to say. Go on.
Do you know what? Like, if I was writing stories around this era?
You haven't asked a question yet.
Okay. Yeah. Having a Torchwood episode, I know it wouldn't work because Torchwood is Earth, and
Also didn't exist yet, but go on.
well, they did.
Torchwood's the end. The show?
Well, yeah, but I'm on about when they got Torchwood, the show, aired.
That's at the end of this series.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is to have an episode, because I know they've done it. They did an episode on slavery, didn't they? Where they kind of got like weird.
In Torchwood?
Yeah, I think they did, didn't they? They got like weird creatures, or was that food? Was it slavery or food? I remember you telling me about
I
this.
need you to complete a question before I can
they
answer.
basically like caged a load of like aliens that had fallen out of time and stuff.
So there's two things that could be. So I think the food, there's an episode of Torchwood called Meat, where there's like one big creature that, I mean, this is awful. So like trigger warning if you're sensitive, I guess. But they people kind of trap this creature and they start cutting bits off of it for food. And yeah, that's awful. But there's also an episode in series 1 called Combat, where a lot of the creatures, I think they're called weevils.
Yes,
that
that's
seem
the
to
one
be
I'm thinking of, yes.
They're the most common things for some reason that come through the rift. And people start like a fight club with them. They kind of like lock them in a cage and people like place bets and stuff on fighting them.
But I thought it would be very much a Torchwood feeling episode if they'd gone back to New Earth and that new breed of humans had become slaves.
Oh, God.
Or had become... Because you know what humanity are like, they're shit. So...
Charles.
They're poo.
Yeah.
I didn't agree to no potty mouth. Yeah, So I can imagine that would be very much... Do you mean they've all of a sudden got a large amount of this new species which are very much like human and have
but not smart enough to be able to like stand up for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And or do any...
Sorry, did you preface this whole thing by saying if you were writing around this time you would write this?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
But as in like me, but also in the royal me of if I were a, Torchwood writer, which
That's
I'm not.
not a thing. There is no royal me as a Torchwood writer. That's not a thing.
It's like, if I were them, I would have done this. And you say that's terrible, but you literally described them having a creature as meat.
Yeah, but I didn't write that.
Yeah,
I'm not
but
like, I would have done this if
but
I were
it's
a writer.
fitting for Torchwood, and it would
Torchwood's dark.
lift it.
Torchwood is dark, so I guess there's a trigger warning if you're sensitive, but at the same time, Torchwood is also pretty good.
It is pretty
So
good.
if anyone has watched all of Doctor Who...
But yeah, I think them, they would have...
Yeah. If anyone has watched Doctor Who and they like it a lot and they rewatch it and they're curious about Torchwood but have never given it a go, I would definitely say do it. I will preface it by saying just like Series 1, there's a bit of a tone issue in the beginning. Where they lean a bit too hard into being mature, so I think...
They're like, ooh, look, mature people have sex. Look, woo.
I think the language... in terms of like profanity and the like sexual content is maybe a bit much. It's not like there's like sex scenes every 5 minutes. It's just they reference stuff quite a lot in the first maybe 4 or 5 episodes of series 1.
One of the first episodes has a cyber woman who is wearing a cyber bikini, and that is all cyber about.
We won't get into that. It's Chris Chibnall, all right? Okay.
But yeah, that's just if you're curious to what kind of vibe it is. It's that.
It's not. No,
the first couple of episodes.
You're doing it a disservice. That's what I'm saying. If you watch the first like couple episodes and you think this is a bit much, I understand. From Countryside onwards, it gets better.
Yeah.
Or maybe the best thing to do: watch series 3. It's called Children of Earth.
Oh God! Don't watch series 3. It's brilliant. It is really
it's very
brilliant.
good.
But
so I'd say
God, is it dark.
It's only 5 episodes. Watch Children of Earth. And if you like it, then go back and watch Series 1. You don't need the context from Series 1 or 2 for it. So you can just watch those 5 episodes in Series 3.
Yeah.
And if you like it, go back. That's my advice to you.
And my advice would be, it is brilliant. And if you love a hell of a story, you'll love this. And character arcs and character building is brilliant. But do not go into this thinking it is going to be Doctor Who. It is not.
If you love the
rough.
Moffat era, you might not like Torchwood.
Yeah. Well, I like Torchwood and I love the Moffat era, so... But then I also said I'd write that episode for Torchwood, so who knows?
Yeah, you're just a walking mess. Yeah.
But yeah, I think
But back to New Earth.
God, we went on a couple of tangents this episode.
Yeah. I don't have anything else, do you?
No, that's everything, really.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you all very much for listening. We really appreciate you. Don't forget to leave a like if you're listening to us over on YouTube. You can leave a comment on YouTube or on Spotify. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, sorry, there's no way for you to interact. But yeah, you can subscribe or follow, depending on where you're listening, to keep up with everything we're doing in future. But yeah, until then, I would say check us out next episode where we're going to be visiting 1870s Scotland.
And a load of monks.
Kung Fu monks.
Oh, yeah.
And a werewolf.
And a werewolf.
But until then, stay safe. Stay away from anthropomorphic cats.
Oh, no, I want a anthropomorphic... Oh, I can't say it.
Say it.
Cat.
Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.